processes. Like if I'm a manager and I'm a supervisor, I need to put that on my team so I can balance out. I need to be focused on doing best for my team. But at the end of the day, my team that's going to stick with me is my spouse and my kids. Those are the people that are going to be there. They're going to be the cheerleaders that are going to go through that. There's going to be seasons, of course, but just don't sit there and be like, well, it's my job. It's important. We need to evaluate in the proper order is the leadership that I'm performing in my work, which should be level 4 in my life and priority, is that overtaking other priorities? If it is, I need to go over and reevaluate and see how can I bring that priority back in line.
Thank you for that. What I want to ask you, Daniel, we got in common that my husband was in the Royal Navy. That's how he started out his flying career, and he was away 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time. When we first got married, we were young. When I was 23 when I got married. And we didn't have any connection then at all. We didn't have any communication. But you have all that communication now. That's so. I think that is that's got to make lives easier now. Yeah. For people living apart.
It does and it doesn't. I mean, we've always had the same dynamic. Is that we want that connection and relationship, and yes, it brings the levels of connection and relationship we didn't have before. But the biggest part is the intentionality of it, because I know people with being 18 years military, 6 of them are reserve and 12 of them are active, is that if we don't be proactive in our relationships when we are home, if we're just being proactive when we're gone, because now we see it as a felt need, you're still going to lose the relationship. So you got to be prioritizing your relationship on a regular basis. I mean, if a spouse was doing that 30 years ago and they're prioritizing their relationship, and now they're limited just to letters and whatnot and everything else, a spouse is easier to go over and to deal because they understand that it might be next to impossible to do that. Like if I'm in a Navy ship, for example, under the water, the mailman's not going to come.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
In those particular regards, but you have to walk your marriage in almost formative instruction. Like when I got married, I told my wife, I'm like, this is the type of job I do in the Air Force. This is the type of things I go over and do. And we should be having discussions even with civilians. Like, hey, this is my job. This is my legacy. This is what I'm going. This is my career path. Are you really wanting to marry into this? Because that's my plan. If you go plan on the hip and just say, yeah, I'm just working at Pizza Hut right now and I'm just feeling it out and I want to marry and take care of you. If you look at marriage as a contract, you're just going to ditch when it gets bad. But planning it as a legacy and as a covenant to go over and say, hey, I want to look at this long-term 80 years down the road. What am I going to go over and to provide? What am I going to go over and care about? Am I going to look at love as unconditional? Those types of things. Those are very important to walk into. So I've seen military marriages that started early and they're thriving. I've seen ones that are brand new today and they have all this technology and they're failing because they don't plan their marriage in mind. They plan it almost like a speed dating, Tinder, quick chat online type thing. And if you plan it that way, it might be fun for a season, but that's not going to grow a legacy. Got it.
Yeah. So how did your marriage then survive, all the trials of, because it's not an easy life being in the military, is it?
No, it wasn't. And we walked in very fast. So I met Michelle June 18th of 2006, got married December 18th, 2006. And by February 10th, she was already like about 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. We got told that we were changing jobs and told that I was going on my first deployment in my marriage. And then from there, we found out, we're pregnant too. So we had pregnant, job change, and deployment. And I didn't understand this stuff before. I didn't have a doctorate degree in my spouse. I'm still working on my doctorate degree in my spouse. So it'll always be a continuing degree. But I didn't have those things. I didn't understand the communication. I understood just a bunch of vertical, scriptural, Jesus-centered principles, but I never knew how to apply them. So if anybody that's listening is from a Bible perspective, you probably heard like, love your wife as Christ loves the church, submit to your husband type thing. And you're like, yeah, that's old and ethereal. It's not. It's honoring. But if you don't understand it contextualized to your spouse, it's detrimental because you just don't know how to do it. So when I read the book, when I was on my first deployment, Positive Personality Profiles from Dr. Robert Rome, it was the first time understanding my spouse and understanding those scripture references in context with my wife. So now I know how to love my wife as Christ loves the church, and my wife knows how to submit to me as the headship in the marriage, because now she understands how I'm wired. So now it takes the vertical and the horizontal and puts it together. So as we continue to look at vertical principles, God, and horizontal principles, each other in relationships, now we can continue to thrive on that, because now we have a triad of a relationship. That we have my wife, we have me and my wife, and then me and my wife and Jesus. So when one of us fail, like in the human perspective, me or my wife, we always can go back to Jesus. And then we can go back to the general revelation of his relationships, the DISC model, human behavior, and other things, and continue to do that, and then grow from there. That's how the relationship can be continuing to be a legacy. Because if you look at it as legacy, covenantal, and growth in that particular regard, you're not going to give up when you're emotionally charged in an argument. You're going to look at the legacy of, like, I still want to see you 80 years from now. My wife wants me to be alive for 80 years in marriage. I'm like, I'm hoping I'm dead at that point. But that's the goal. I mean, 105 is like really, really old and frail. I'm like, if I'm like super healthy and doing his gospel, sure, I'm fine and dandy. But if I'm just like old, beaten, and I'm like, all right, have I done enough work? Have I been a good and faithful servant? Can I go? I mean, so, but that's the legacy of that, is that, hey, if we get to 80 years, I know my wife's going to be like, let's do another 20. I'm like, I don't want to be 125.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm already hurting as is, as a 36, 37-year-old person, as a veteran. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to get any better. So, but that's the legacy that we want to leave. I mean, it'd be cute and it'd be awesome as a legacy of 80 years of marriage. It'd be great. We're 69 years to go.
Yeah, 69. So. Wow. My husband's parents have just celebrated their diamond. So that's 60 years, yeah. It's a long time.
It is.
So what one piece of advice would you give our listeners today to thrive in their relationships? Just one thing. What would you say?
You got to get to know your spouse, and the simplest way to go do that is the basics of the personality style. If I understand you and you understand me, we're going to have a better relationship. And it's going to take all the stuff that you've seen throughout the years, the good in your spouse, the bad, and the ugly, and now have quantifiable words to that. So I would always recommend that they, and they can go through whoever. If they want to go through us, awesome. If they want to go over and have an understanding, that's great. If they don't, then they can just go to where we have a site through Personality Insights. They can go grab profiles. They can either learn it on their own or learn it through consultation. But yeah, for me, if I was teaching myself again, or if I was that one person listening, male and female, that you get to know your spouse and their personality style. It's the first steps to go over and to grow and to create that legacy, because now you have quantifiable words and actions and plans to actually now go love your spouse in a practical way. That would be key number one.
So we can go and do that straight away. And I wish, in a lot of times, I've known that, there's so much stuff, you learn now. I wish I'd known that early on in my marriage. And that's the advice I would give my children. I've got 3 children who are all in long-term relationships. And that's the sort of advice, to give them, which I didn't have. I was really, looking back, really very naive and quite clueless as a young 23-year-old getting married all those years ago. But that's great advice. Thank you for that. That's is your spouse outgoing? Are they reserved? Are they task-orientated? Or are they people-orientated? These are just great questions that, we need to ask, to create and get that depth and that legacy in our relationships.
Yeah, and it's not just going to help just there. That's the great thing, is like you go read a lot of marriage books and it might just help your marriage. And you might be able to glean something into like your family and whatnot. But if you understand your personality style and then others, like your spouse first, and grow from there, guess what? That's going to carry into your business. That can carry into your legacy. I mean, you can go into politics, religion, anywhere in the world and still have a great relationship. Yeah, you might not agree on some fundamentals in that particular topic, but you can still go over and still serve them. That's why I've been able to go over, and my wife sometimes amazed. She's like, how do you get along with such a polarizing person? Like, I've known people that were polygamists or atheists or universalists or Republican, Democrat, whatever. And I'm like, I understand the basics of personality style. So it's universal across the world. So I can still go over and go love on them, but then give them the fuels that they're looking for. But I don't have to bend to whatever direction they go, but I can still serve them well, and that's what helps in that particular regard. I mean, it will be helpful for a lifetime. It's not just helpful for a moment, or going to a marriage seminar and then say, yeah, I went and it was an inoculation. For us, it's like, if you actually apply it, it's going to be an indoctrination it's going to ruin every movie and TV show you ever watch too. Yeah, you'll never watch a movie the same once you understand the personality styles. Oh, yeah. I know where they're coming from. They're that style. Oh, I know what they're going to do. Man.
Yeah. Brilliant. And I've got one last question for you. What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Okay. Well, I can one hand clap over audio. Let's see if it picks it up. Let me see where my microphone's at. It's right around. Oh, here. Let me see if I can pick it up. Do you hear that at all?
I do.
Oh, good. I'm like, yeah, so that's the sound of one hand clapping. So if anybody ever meets me live, they can ask for that. I usually do it towards the end of like any thing I go to, any event that I'm teaching at. Like, I'm teaching at a couple events like in Washington tomorrow. So if it goes in the conversation, that's usually like doing that. So as long as I have the capability, I will continue to one hand clap.
Wow. Yeah, I want to be able to see that. Obviously, we can't, but that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, where can we find Daniel? He's got a lot of places we can find Daniel. He's on he's on social media. So we've got Daniel on Facebook. He's Daniel Faust 33. Is this a Facebook group or a Facebook page?
I actually have a Facebook group now since last we talked. So we have a Leave No Marriage Behind group now. So they can find us in many different places, and we can just give you the links afterwards, which I think I already did. So you have my personal page, you have Learn and Live, you have Leave No Marriage Behind group, you have us on Instagram as Agape Chick, on LinkedIn as Daniel Faust, and then on Twitter is under Perspect and Reflect. So that was our old company name, is Perspectives and Reflections. Okay. So it's kind of hard to change something in Twitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you go over and Google us, or if you find the Leave No Marriage Behind book on Amazon or any resource that you're looking for, you can also buy it from us, that particular regard. So we're in a multitude of places and we're growing in there, but we'll eventually have a group per book. So Leave No Marriage Behind has a group, then there'll be Leave No Family Behind next year, and then each place will have their own group, just focused just on marriage, just focused just on family. Learn and Live is the hub, and Daniel Faust are the hub for the whole entire business. But then you can go break into and say, hey, if I just want all marriage content, Leave No Marriage Behind. If I want family content, Leave No Family Behind. Hey, if I'm looking towards the veteran perspective, Leave No Veteran Behind. We'll eventually have a group per topic, and all content for that particular group would just be focused in. But you can always go to Daniel Faust or Learn and Live to find, the cornucopia of information. You want to specify, then you just go into those groups.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So that's a really, I love the concept. I love that concept. So, and Daniel's website is learn-n-live.us, yeah?
Yeah, .us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still in construction, just so you know, but always best to get us at social media. Our website is under construction and rebranding in that particular regard. So, like I said, the website's always good, but if you run any glitches, any problems, catch me on social media and I can answer all your questions, send you all the content, send you all the links and everything else and resource that you need. So
fantastic. Thank you. And Daniel today is offering a free 15-minute consultation to the first 50 listeners who PM private message Daniel via Facebook using the hashtag #CoachOnFire. And you can claim this free consultation by the 31st of May. So I would really invite you to grab that 15-minute chat with Daniel, and you can see where it's going to take you further. So that's a really great offer. Thank you